they're trying to, in a way, I suppose, take the industry to a higher level by virtue of regulation and enforcing an Australian standard that's actually been around for a very long time, but Australian standards are notoriously not followed unless there's a real reason to do so. For some organisations, that might be by virtue of their own insurance or quality needs. It might be an industry that they work in. For example, health and aged care is a great example there, where they can be audited at any time to see are they following certain set standards or regulations or guides from different departments. However, I think there's been a few incidents that probably force this change by government, where whether it be private certifiers or whether it be owners, we're not necessarily fulfilling their obligations under those standards. And there may have been some incidents which, after further investigation, it was identified that if those checks had been done and they had been, those properties had been maintained to the standards at which they were designed to be, maybe some of those circumstances or those incidents would not have been as bad as they turned out to be. That's my assumption. People that are signing off on that are holding a considerable weight of, I don't like to use the word liability, but in effect they are. They're saying, I've double checked the work that's been done by these different practitioners based on the measures that are within the annual fire safety statement, and I'm comfortable that those measures or those things, those items are being checked and maintained in the manner in which they were designed and to the standards that the Australian standards say that they should be maintained. And that would then be supplied to council, local council, and also in New South Wales, for example, to Fire Rescue New South Wales, to the Commissioner. That's been done previously anyway. However, there's a far greater level of scrutiny and check from those accredited people. And from the little space that I work within, being emergency management, I know that it's no longer a check to see have the plans been drawn up, but now I know that they're looking for, are the plans being maintained? Are the plans being maintained by people that are qualified and competent to do so? Do you have an emergency planning committee, for example, that's overseeing those particular plans and doing things as per the Australian standard? So the guides have always been there. I think the scrutiny around the check hasn't been there in the past, and this is where it's finally going to really start to ramp up.
Yeah.
The way we're using Plan Safe, the online training component of your business, we're using that to assist our clients to fulfill their theoretical training requirements. So we look at any training unit or service as being both theoretical and practical. So I'm instructing someone on how to do something, and then we practically engage with the person to show them, and then we test that message or that training has been well received, and that's usually done through a physical exercise, whether it be an evacuation drill or a lockdown event. In a health or an aged care setting, it might be practicing evacuation methodology and finding internal staging and working as a team. There's different measures based on the workplace. We use Plan Safe to get that theoretical education across to the client. So we know that they've gone, and that training, of course, is contextualised to their site. And we know that they've gone through all the different layers and covered off all the things that we need to. We go a little bit further. We actually embed our own videos from that place into the training. So I go out to site and film things that are really important. And I think that gives it an extra lift because the client can see us playing with their equipment, looking through their own work sites.
It's real.
It's not lost on us that there's a significant business imposition by, operational impositions, but also cost to get people into a training room. So we, as you well know, I've pushed back on online training for some time because I just felt it was too generic and too vanilla, and it didn't, speaking to a multi-story mixed tenancy property in a city where it's got information on how to evacuate a single level place, in a more suburban setting, or vice versa, flip that on its head. We can't have a one-size-fits-all training. So this was the first time I'd come across an online learning opportunity where you could contextualize it. It was based on the floor plans of the building that it relates to. And then I went, okay, this is the first product I've seen that meets our needs. Yeah, we spent some time with some education specialists about 12 months ago, based in America, who were actually engaged by New South Wales, or actually all federal education departments in Australia. They come over and do a lot of work. So we tried to spend some time with them to understand how people, not just kids, but adults, learn as well. And we're really trying to combat this phenomenon known as the forgetting curve. So if I work with you in January and teach you something in January, it's not reasonable for me to expect you to remember what I taught you in January in March, May, June, July, whatever, particularly in a dynamic, adrenaline-filled environment, which is where we work. So we try to sit with our clients, look at their risk profile, figure out where the emergencies could come from, look at what do you reasonably expect your team to do, and then plan safe forms a part of that puzzle response, where we look at, okay, we have online education, we have tactile training events, we upskill you to figure out ways that you can engage with your teams weekly, monthly, or otherwise as needed. Yeah. So it's part of a broader piece. We don't just rely on plan safe. We don't just rely on the practical event. It's part of that whole package where we find out how do the client and their teams, how do they best learn? But plan safe's a key component.